Hello, you're watching Studio Ken. Make sure you don't miss any episode of Studio Ken by subscribing to the YouTube channel. To subscribe, search for Studio Ken on YouTube, click subscribe on the bottom right of your screen, and set a reminder. You can also watch Studio Ken on Diamond TV on Wednesday at 18:30 and on Saturday at 19 hours. Studio Ken, the home of Kennedy Gondwe on YouTube.
When I was in secondary school, I asked my teacher of art what art was. He said art was a person's aesthetic expression, but without asking what that meant, all I could do was to memorize the words. I've since learned that art is the expression or application of a human's creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form such as a painting or sculpture, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. Yet, not all art is roundly appreciated or loved, and if there's one artist here in Zambia who has sent the tongues of both haters and lovers of his works wagging, it is Sydney Siansangu, a teacher of art at Mnali Secondary School here in Lusaka.
Pirato nafuma kuna konde na leto mutende bakamba. You're watching Studio Ken. Then subscribe on free bakamba. If you're free mure shupa nangu kute mo burofa na kuseche mure rofa.
Sydney, welcome to Studio Ken.
Thank you so much for the opportunity and the platform given unto me.
How were you the chosen one for your work to end up at the Vatican?
How was I a chosen one? Interesting question. I would say it could have been somebody else. Yeah, but there are people that are tasked to look for presidential gifts or whatever it is. And normally from the past we have seen that there are works that are gotten as present to just extend a gesture of who we are, as in authentic, something authentic that represents us that can be given out to people of higher profile. Yeah, it may not be Hakainde, it was there in the PF predominantly, I must say.
And those people are from the government?
Yes, the Minister of Tourism is tasked, and probably working in collaboration with the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Yeah, may not be so sure about that, but Minister of Tourism has that mandate to do that. So they went round and they were asking, where else can we go? So I forwarded what I had. I also recommended some artists. So they looked at what is there. So when things are submitted, they look and we give stories around our work. So they look at the story and what resonates well and what can represent us well. So that's how my work.
At the time that you were approached by the people from the Ministry of Tourism, did you actually know that those works were meant to be given to the president in order for him to give people out of the country as presents?
No, they came like they have come before. We are looking for a gift. Yeah, we are looking for a gift that is to be presented to some high-profile individual. Then I said, oh, okay. Then I actually asked, let me know who that person, because as an artist, I need to know where my work is going. So prior to that, I did not know.
Was it commissioned or it was work that was already made and they just came to you to submit?
Far from being commissioned. I worked on that piece about 1.5 years ago. I work normally in on a number of pieces together, and then I begin to finish them bit by bit. So that work, more than 1.5, I think, to be more precise, 1.5 or over a year. So it is in the Legacy series, where Legacy 1 is in somebody's collection, 2 in somebody's collection. So I finished 3, actually, yes, I finished 3. Then I was working on 4 and 5. So for me, it was a normal routine as an artist to work, because I work. I don't work because there will be something. So I worked, and when I was approached, there it was.
So do you actually just give out these works for free, or you sell them?
I have a gallery where my works would be exhibited. And because I've been in the industry for some time, people have gotten to know me personally. So some people come. Some people come to visit, not necessarily to buy, but to see what I would be working on at a given time. Yeah.
So you sold that work to the Ministry of Tourism?
I did not sell. The gallery sold the
To
work.
the Minister of Tourism, and
Exactly.
then you get your money from
Yeah,
the people
exactly.
that,
Because the gallery itself must get whatever belongs
The
to them
commission.
for facilitating the sale. So I do not know who would come to buy my work.
So how did it feel when you saw that your piece of work was being presented to the Pope at the Vatican?
It's something exciting. It's very nice, I must say. You know, he's a high-profile figure, and I think in his collection, these guys have been, I think they do boast of one of the highest collections of artworks. And I think as an artist, when you see your work being in the hands of a high-profile person, it's your CV. I think it also makes others, or the would-be collectors, to look and say, oh, this person has got work in this particular person's hands. I would also love to have one. So it made me excited because it increases my profile as an artist.
There are those of your critics that have called your works, or that particular one, demonic, because it had a horn, it had rattles, I think it had a drum. Is your work demonic?
I don't know what would be running through the mind of a person to call a piece of artwork like that one demonic. First of all, let me be quick to mention, evil starts with our minds. Evil is built within our minds. That is basically just an object that does not talk, that does not move, that is created in its aesthetic way. It's appreciated. People would use it as a decor in their, you know. So for me, I'm looking at it as a way of documenting our past, telling my own story, and nothing spiritual attached to it, far from it. So even the symbolisms that people want to attach because they see a certain part coming out, they see
A horn,
why-
for instance,
yes.
and when you read the Bible, a horn.
Yes. But by the way, the horn, even in the Bible, does not move with the signification of this evil we are seeing around. The musical horns were used in the past, even with the children of Israel, with everybody else, even in our modern times. When it is blown, it communicates something, either for people to gather or for people for specific meetings and whatever. So for me, I'm wondering, what is evil? Because evil begins in our mind. So unless you yourself want to make it evil, then it will be evil.
But perhaps the people that call it evil are coming from a background that some artists, most artists that I've met myself, are atheists. They don't believe in the God that you and I believe in, but we'll come to religion later. Perhaps there's a point there to be made that most artists are atheists.
Well, they would know better because I'm not one. I'm strongly rooted on the grounds of Christianity. I respect my God, and I'm not going to speak about it cosmetically because I want to convince somebody to follow. I think I would rather leave people with their assumptions. Let them feed themselves with their assumptions. When they would have been done, they'll come back, they'll find me still within the normacy. I work within the premise of what my conscience is free, with the boundaries that I must put, with everything that when I present, I am comfortable. And by the way, even when this work was going around and there were these things, my heart was at peace. I mean, it's like you are walking in a direction where people are chasing a thief or a wizard or whoever. They are busy running. Then they point to say, Kawalala uyo, or witch, whatever. If you are going in that direction and people are shouting like that, if you are one, you will run away and they will pounce on you and kill you. But if you are not one, you will just look. Then probably they will even bypass you because you do not know. You do not know anything negative about that because you are pure. Yeah.
There are those that also have used the tribe card. I must say and emphasize that I'm not a tribalist myself. For purposes of this interview, there are people that are saying the reason that your piece of work was chosen is because you are Tonga just like the president is. You are SDA, Seventh-day Adventist, just like the president is. What is your response to that?
You know, for some reasons, I think I thought about certain things, and I know that it's not just this one. Expect more to come out. But I'll tell you one thing. Let us remove the aspect of religion with it, because in the long run now, we will even invite other things like Catholic, SDA. I'm not the best person to talk about that. I'm not competent. My church has got its own hierarchy to speak. But I'll tell you one thing to say, look, people now because of the clarifications that have been made. They now understand, because I showed them another sample of individual, it's nothing to that. So anything related to being attached to this, or because of tribe, because of this and that, I think is because people have failed. This is just a symbolism of failure to substantiate something that is innocent in its own right.
Are you related to the president? Have you ever met him?
By far.
Spoken with him?
Not a single day.
So what benefits, there are obviously benefits that have been derived from this controversy, have come with the controversy concerning your work.
In all this, let us look at the blessing that comes with it, because the outside art, serious art collectors, serious art institutions will buy into this. They will now be woken up. There is Zambia. Now, when they are woken up to say there is Zambia, they will now begin to come. Let's see what is there. That makes us now benefit. That's a benefit we've been crying. We've not been given our own ministry. It could be an attention that we may have our own ministry with the seriousness that it goes with. Look at Senegal. Look at South Africa. If you look at the life of an artist, it's totally different. Botswana, that he was borrowing and being taught from us, is way ahead of us. The previous president was actually seriously attached with the artists, being with them. Us who have been riding for a long period of time. Look at Robert Mugabe and Zimbabwe, and how from the criticism that he received around him with the arts, he ended up being with the art. Look at how the Shona covers are. Worldwide they are known.
What inspires you as an artist?
Life.
What about life?
Life in its totality. When we talk about art, art is a means of self-expression. Like many other artists, we tell stories. So we cannot tell stories of what does not belong to us. So as my inspiration with life, if you see every piece of artwork, it symbolizes or signifies something that talks about a life of a people somewhere. I can give examples. Life, look at Mlenga Chafirua's work. It talks about life on the streets. And by the way, talking about Mlenga Chafirua's work went to the White House with Guy Scott. You get it? So when we begin to look at all these things, let's look at the positive, because our works have been in high-profile platforms. We need to seize the benefits. So those are the benefits that we need to go with. Yes.
Now, when it comes to most artists, I asked you earlier, they are atheists.
Yes.
They live in a very weird world, I must say, respectfully.
Yes.
They, I think, tend to think that because they're able to create something that a lot of people talk about, probably they assume the role of God and they don't believe in God at all. When I was in secondary school, one of my teachers of art would come and say, I was drinking beer yesterday with Jesus Christ. And you're saying, oh, okay. Why is it like that?
You know, art can be a serious religion on its own, if you want to call it that way. It can come with its own energy. But I think the most important thing to do is know where you begin and know where you end. Because when you know, for me, I know that the giver of all these inward abilities is God. Because God said, let there be. He's the only creator that can give life. So if I create something I cannot give life, it ends just there. So it cannot be worshipped, it cannot be done anything. And so the craziness that goes, it's about individuals. Anyone is free to go the way they want to go. I cannot limit them because I would say I'm a Christian. I cannot limit them. And in going forward, by the way, I will only look at that which is within the normacy. And if anybody would also want to take advantage of all this scenario, excuse me, I'm not available for anything that is questionable. I will only work with what my mind is cautious with. So atheists, well, they exist. I mean, they exist. I've gone, I've traveled, I've seen. I don't need to be told. I have seen how artists conduct themselves. So I know my boundaries and I know how far I can go. So I respect people's choices, whilst I hold on to mine.
Which brings me to the next question. If you had a choice, would you rather your works end up in the hands of someone from the Roman Catholic Church? The reason I ask is that there's a religious tiff between Seventh-day Adventists and the Roman Catholic. I mean, when you read a book like the National Sunday Law, clearly the Seventh-day Adventists have got issues with the way the Catholics conduct themselves. And yet your piece of work was given to the Pope by a member of the Seventh-day
Adventists. Like the way I have put it from the beginning, I may not be the most competent person to talk about my religion and the rift between. I did not know that my work will end up in the hands of that particular person. So I cannot also come and now begin to revoke because there are these misunderstandings. So I don't want to be drawn so much into the criticism of the church, because my church has got the hierarchy. And by the way, we are told the most to embrace the gifts that God has given unto us. If my gifts, the gifts that God has given me, ends up, I mean, there are so many examples. I don't want to draw so much of your time. There are so many examples of people who could have been chosen by God that have ended up benefiting in so-called, if you want to imagine that way, questionable grounds. You get it? So people have benefited in those lines. So for me, I don't want to be drawn into the politics of the church. I want to move with my skill, because the Bible teaches me to say, you feed from the works of your hands.
How does it feel when you've put in so much work, only for your work to be misunderstood when you've completed it? I mean, I've been to workshops by the likes of Charles Chambata, the late Flinto Chandia. When you see what they make, and then there's controversy like it has been in your case, how does it feel?
You know, I think what we need the most is art education in Zambia. It's been lacking for a long period of time. When you look at Flinto, he had his own way of doing his things. I respected him in his skill, very skillful. I respect Charles Chambata and the choice of his subject. There's a way in which he does. By the way, there are so many people who also, in the question that you asked previously, that may believe in certain things, that may not go with certain works that are produced by certain artists for some reasons and stuff like that. So you discover to say tastes differ. You get it? So when you look at, the people and the people like Chambata and Flinto and how they would do their thing, for me, I think I would leave it within the premise of whatever it is that they do, and I move within mine, and yeah, that's it.
Let's talk about art in general terms. Does it have a single definition, or it all goes with how you interpret it? For instance, if I collected leaves, made something that looks appealing and beautiful, can you call that art?
Art is diverse. Art is diverse. It does not subscribe to a certain route. And by the way, there is no way you can talk about limitation because of media. People can express themselves in so many ways with different media. Just like I chose to express myself with wood, metal, copper wire, and stone. All these brought together to put up that piece of work. So there's no limitation. If you are inspired by anything that you have seen and say, wow, I can produce a piece of artwork from this, you discover to say, you will have to be respected within the means, because media is basically just a means through which we express ourselves. In other words, the ideas are within us. We are pregnant with ideas. We give birth to them by way of creating things that we create. It could be music. It could be writing poetry. It could be people doing a performance. So we are inspired in so many different ways. So we will live to give birth to our ideas by whichever means we feel, for as long as communication is done. The underlying factor is communication of our ideas and beliefs to other people that will have to look at them.
What do you make of the art scene in Zambia?
At the moment, it's a sorry sight. I mean, born from what we are talking about here, I think the art scene in Zambia is a sorry sight. I think we should have been living to celebrate one another. I can imagine if it is South Africa, we could have been clapping. We could have been clapping. The South African has made it. We have been asking for a longer period of time. We need a platform. It's a sorry sight. Pupils, I teach. Pupils complete. I look at them. My students from art class, I look at them. Where do they end up? Most of them, they end up with skill. They end up as drunkards. So it's a sorry sight in that if our art scene is where it's supposed to be, we will end up having self-employment, which is what we must advocate other than white-collar jobs. So let us use this opportunity that we can grow the art scene in Zambia.
So As a teacher, I was going to come to that. How do you motivate your pupils to still take up art, knowing very well that in this world that they may be graduating into, it is a sorry sight, using your words?
How do I motivate my pupils? I have two in this case. I have two boys that I work with, Chilawa Kaluba. I also have Kawe Mulanga. I think those that follow social media will be alive to the fact that Dr. Andrew Mlenga highlighted about Kawe Mulanga. Kawe
A finalist of the Cynthia Zukas.
Yes, a finalist of the Cynthia Zukas. How do we motivate these people? Kabwe Mshanga, that's a word, that's a name that I know the most in class. Yes, Mlanga is just born recently. How do I motivate them? This boy has been good, getting awards even during competition at secondary level. So I called him. You have got skill. This, you know, is orphaned. Forget your mother, forget your father. This is now going to be your mother. I brought him clothes. I provide materials for him. I've provided materials, paints, pencils, charcoal, canvas, paper, canvas paper. I've provided to him. The same Cynthia Zuka's award. I don't want to get so much credit around it for him and stuff like that. But look, he's just completing grade 12. But the works needed to be presented in a certain way. We went as far as framing those works that they can look presentable. And there he is. And look, he's been empowered. His works have soared because of presentability. I'm working with Chilawa. He completed from Ivorian Horn 7 years ago. He's not anywhere. He has benefited something. He sold his work and he's able to have a livelihood. So I motivate them by providing the little that I can have, a pencil, for example. And that is also what I do in class.
How are you received outside the country? Is it a question of prophets not being appreciated in their hometown?
To a larger extent, I would say here, I'm just as an ordinary person the way I am. But out there, you discover to say you may receive an attention that you feel, look, is that what is being purported of us? Artists, visual artists, or let me say visual artists out there, when we travel, we are not the way we are here. There's a lot of respect.
Given what you described to me as regards the way you are treated here, are there artists that live off art, completely survive off their pieces of work?
Yeah, there's so many. There's so many. And I think given the platform, if we take advantage of the opportunity, Stari Mwawa, Charles Chambata, Frito Chandia, name them. They are living purely on us. Even when I teach, I use them as examples. You know, they are living solid. There are so many that are living purely within the premises, within the premise of the art. So that's just a few examples that I can give you.
What do you think the government can do, as well as yourselves, in changing the landscape of art in Zambia?
I think first and foremost, if they are sincere to themselves to see the arts grow, let them tap from this opportunity. It is there. It's a timely call. Let's stop all the negativity and look at tapping. There's a voice that is speaking on the other hand that, look, you've neglected something. So the government can use this opportunity to grow the arts to where they are supposed to be. It will end up adding value to the GDP of our country. Yeah.
Very soon we'll be going outside to see you in your workshop and just getting to understand you even further. But then I need to ask this. What makes art controversial or unpalatable if the essence of art is creative expression?
What makes art questionable? Probably it could be the elements that it goes with that may not resonate well with people, maybe because of their thinking. So people have got different beliefs and thinkings and the like. So there are so many, if you go to arcades market, you find that people are looking for specific pieces of work that, you know, will come with certain components and stuff like that. So depending on what people, you know, are looking for, you discover to say there are certain components that may be tricky here and there, but in my view, when you talk about art being controversial, there are people that have used certain means to be able to score a certain points.
Sydney, thank you very much for appearing on Studio Ken.
Please, it's been a pleasure, and so much. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to clarify and to put up things the way they are and straight. And I'm appreciative that I think things are clear, and I'm not looking at it from a point where I must convince somebody to say, look, let's think like that. People are free to think within the realms of how they wanted to think.
So, what is this? What is this here?
It's another composition of musical instruments. Yeah, it can be termed as a full band within our traditional setups, like when you go back to the villages and stuff like that. The music that may be played may not be with these modern instruments and stuff like that. If you see the traditional ceremonies, you will discover to say it may not go with these modern. They still come within the musical instruments that they have. Drums are actually so common with us. You get it. Other churches actually use drums a lot, all these musical instruments. So now this is a composition of all these musical instruments that define who we are. So
And this is part of the series that you've been working on.
seemingly so, but this one, because of this thing that I admired somewhere, I looked at it to be a base on which I can put up all these instruments and call it our roots. So legacy is something great passed on, but also you are talking about our roots. So these roots, now what roots? You know, you can never have your legs firm into anything except you know where you belong. So in this case, I'm talking about the belonging of our Zambian setup, our Zambian culture. So if you may wish to know, in Gwembe,
Is that where you come from?
my father comes from Gwembe.
Okay.
Yes. So there's a musical instrument called nyele from these small antelopes. Yes, from these small antelopes, nyele. It's from a cajon. So they play it on some occasions to celebrate, or sometimes depending on the solemn moment, they would also play it. So that is where the inspiration deeply comes from that the kanyere musical instruments. And others will be these shakers may come in different compositions and form.
Okay.
So I decided to make them round. I'm just appreciating the sphere, when I look at the elements of art and the like. So
Then there's the marimba, the rattles here. I can see.
You have the marimba and stuff like that. All these I craft myself. I don't pick anything to bring to assemble, no. So I looked at the composition of these musical instruments, bring them together to speak a Zambian story. Yeah.
Your pieces, like any other artist, start with you thinking about an idea,
Exactly.
putting it on paper,
Exactly.
and finally this stage.
Exactly.
What goes on in your mind?
You know, when you live when you live in the world of an artist, there's a lot that goes on. I think you discover to say the mind of an artist may not just be an ordinary. We think a lot. I think we think a lot. And
Do you smoke?
I don't by far. And that is another myth. Besides what we were talking about, religion and whatever, you find people who tell you to know you must smoke this, you must
drink a lot.
Drink a lot. I think that is individual. That is at an individual level. For me, I work within my sober state.
Okay. You are a teacher.
Yeah.
Tell me how you juggle your work, full-time work at Mnali Secondary School and this. What are your workshop hours?
My workshop hours mostly are dictated to by my timetable at school. There are times when I'm free. I think I don't want to improve my skills in gossiping, standing around with people, doing nothing and end nothing at the end of the day, because, look, I will end up somebody that even my children will not live to respect at the end of the day. I have identified myself, and when I have identified and weighed myself, I realize that I have a skill. And that skill, I can put it into good use. Through this, I support my children to go to school.
Okay.
I support myself. I've gone to school to upgrade and do a degree through art, paying for myself. And a few other things here and there, art has been able to help me.
And how do you arrive at the pricing of your pieces? For instance, how much would this cost in order for you to support your children and the other things that you do?
First and foremost, I don't price a given art piece based on the load of pressure that I have. But I think I want to look at it with its value and how it goes. Because it's going to, if it is going to dictate to me in that way, then I think I would have missed the point. But I think I also look at it from a point where it mustn't be too small. It mustn't be too big to go with a certain price.
So what is not too small and not too big? How much is this?
This amount of money has not been arrived at yet.
Okay.
Yes.
But what range would you be looking?
I'm still thinking. Don't tempt
Sydney,
me
you've
to
answered all the questions without any difficulty.
Yes.
How much would this cost?
I don't want to alert people to start coming running to say, no, I'm selling 2 kwacha 50 ngwe. Then they start coming. I think...
Suddenly you're being very diplomatic and looking down. You're not looking at me.
No. Let me look at you now. Yes. I think, let me say, I may have an idea.
And you are stammering suddenly.
Yes, I have an idea, but I don't want to put it up there because I do not know where it may land up to. There could be what I require myself as an artist, probably it may be in the hands of a middle person like a gallery and stuff like that. So there are those things that will dictate.
Okay.
So I always put in two places or factors such as, suppose it ends up in a gallery, what happens? If somebody comes to me, still I will look at what the gallery would have gotten against what belongs to me. Yeah.
Okay. All the best and continue working on your piece.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure as usual. I should be done, I think, in the next couple of weeks with this. See how it goes, sign on it, and there it is. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Pirato! Nafuma kuna konde na leto mutende bakamba. You're watching Studio Ken. Chiten subscribe on free bakamba. Nefe ya free mre shupa. Nangu kute mwaburofa na kucheche mre rofa.